I didn't expect this to happen. I knew that the capabilities were there, but Ken rode phenomenal, dude. He looked good all day long, and it took him 11 times, but he finally got the W. Like, I mean, this dude's got some momentum.
Yeah, man, he's riding so well right now, and I, you know, I don't want to say perfect storm, but as we all saw, Chase, big mistake in the qualifier, had to go through last chance. You know, and you know, we just watched Coop too on that as we're watching Kenny pull up and his whole team around him around the podium, because it's such a prestigious race. Like we talked about Daytona, if there's any Supercross that you want to win, it's Anaheim 1. And it's Daytona. And, you know, I think as the years go on, and I guess as I get older, I have 3 of those trophies sitting in my trophy room. You know, Daytona it might be the most prestigious race to win as a 450 Supercross and a 250 racer. You know, it's just the elements that Daytona throws at you, the prestigiousness of that stadium that it's in. You know, it's just it's just an amazing race to go out there and race. So to see Kenny race it 11 times and come back and win, you know, is pretty cool to see. And the story, the team, you know, congratulations to the Pipes, you know, winning Daytona. Like I said, it's an amazing race to win.
Yeah, oh, dude, absolutely, 120%. I was so pleased to see just how well Kenny was riding. I mean, that one section after the sand, how he would triple up onto that elevated corner, and he bowled that, used his momentum to get by those guys. He made several passes in that particular spot, and we're watching the replay of how he got by Cooper Webb. And you know, I think he caught Cooper sleeping right there, tucked underneath him. And we're watching him pass Anderson. He's rolling that outside. I think he did I thought that's where he got AP, but no, I was wrong. He was typical Kenny fashion, just going over there, doing the lines. But the rhythm lane that I think really solidified his ride and helped him win this race was the first rhythm lane. RV, he was able to pop out of the rut over that single in the rut a little bit earlier than everyone else, but he did that rhythm lane the most consistent of anyone. And a lot of people kept making mistakes through there, like they weren't able to triple one lap. That one lap they were able to, and he just was like boom, boom, boom. And I just think his consistency, yet patience, not overriding, I think is at the end of the day what helped him win, and it prevailed. So I like this guy has a ton of momentum right now for the championship, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's one thing with Daytona. You have to also be obviously up front, close to being the fastest rider, obviously, to win any one of these races. But back to Daytona, because of the way the track develops, because it's a longer lap time, you know, consistency is a huge factor on being consistent laps. As we watched where you were just talking, Ricky, Coop rolled over that inside, got a little cross rutted. It blew that, you know, Kenny was instantly able to have a 2 second gap, 3 second gap. You know, that's Daytona really bites you when you make a mistake. It causes you to lose a lot of ground very quickly. It's not like a typical Supercross race where you can rebound very quickly. There's just so many different aspects of that track that come up to bite you. As we're watching Coop right now stalls his bike, not typical for Coop. You know, that's definitely not mistakes. That was the second mistake that I had saw from Coop. I think we're going to see right here, cross ruts right here. There you go. Kenny pulls a big old lead, on Coop.
I think with this RV, I think with this little slip up right here, he just looked like he tried to get over the rut, take the same line as Kenny did. Obviously, he didn't get that front wheel up over the rut, and he kind of gets cross-rutted. I think Coop wins the race if he doesn't make that mistake. I think that was a loss right there. I think that.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Coop was riding well. It was interesting. Obviously, Kenny coming through the pack on that one of those replays that we did see. Kenny used a little bit of Coop's. I think it's right here.
Yeah.
You know, Coop's typically the one that goes underneath of everybody, but Kenny used a little bit of his own medicine on Coop there, was able to go underneath as he goes around the outside of of Jason Anderson, triples up to the outside. He was just on rails. Like, he rode very smooth. And that's I think also with Kenny, his riding style, the way he rides, the way the bike's working right now, it seemed to all be gelling for him Saturday night.
Dude, so Sunday, I got to tell you, I was going to text him congratulations. And I was here at the race, and I was like falling behind, and I was just doing some stuff. I'm like, man, I got to text Kenny and tell him congratulations. And he texts me first, and he sends me this. So I went on the Jackson podcast with Bear and Twitch when I was out in California. I went there, went and recorded with them on a Friday morning, which was a lot of fun. You got to go check it out. And we were talking about Kenny. So Kenny finds this clip when I was on the Jackson podcast. Okay. And I got to like open mouth, insert foot here. I straight up, like, I call it out. I'm like, no, I said, Kenny's not going to win the championship. He's just not going to. Now, keep in mind, this was, I think we were 2 races into the series. But I mean, and even he has said it, like, he didn't think he was a championship guy, or maybe he didn't say it that specifically, RV, but he's like, he doesn't know how realistic it is. Something along those lines. And yeah, so when I was on that podcast, I said it. So he sends this clip and he says, thanks for motivating me. I'm like, oh, dude, you just smoked me. So I have to say, and I told him, I said, dude, I'm glad that something worked for you. And I know I got to go back and read, but I did say, like, that was a hell of a ride. And like, you gotta start thinking of yourself and considering yourself a championship contender, because I think he is. I think I love what he's doing. Especially this, midway through the series. I think that this is some of the best riding he's ever done up till now. I think he's in a great spot, and it just seems different. And I feel like maybe because he's not putting the championship pressure on himself, RV, maybe that's why he's doing so good.
Yep.
So I have to retract what I said on Jackson podcast, and I think. I mean, he's definitely asserted himself as the.
Yeah, dude, if I would have been asked that same question, I would have probably said the same thing, right? Like, statistically, like, he has really starts off the season very well, and then he hits a flat spot, right? And for whatever reason, whatever the program has changed for the better for him, or bike or team, or like whatever that is. It seems like that he hasn't had that lull that we've seen in the past. So like I said, statistically, he's had that lull. And if that question would have been thrown at me, I would have probably said the same thing against the field that we have currently. Guys like Coop, Chase Sexton and the rest. And then obviously we have a pile of guys that are hurt right now too. I don't think it was the wrong answer, but it was motivation for him. Obviously everything's working really well with the team, the bike, and him and mentally. So, and like I said, I Kenny's one of the most talented riders out there. So, when he's on, he's on.
When we're going to switch gears here, 125_dad, has Kenny finally broken the Webb curse? Will he hold on for the win if we get another Detroit scenario? You take the first crack at it. So do you think that he broke Webb there? Like, and then we'll transition. That's a tough question to answer, because I think it's hard to break Coop. And I think Coop is if not the smartest, one of the smartest riders out there. I think he was trying to bridge that gap, and gonna try to make a pass and make a move on Kenny for the win. But also a few of those little mistakes, especially the one where he missed that rut and got cross-rutted. At that point, it was kind of he laid back, because, like I said, smart rider, knows he's not going to push that limit. He knows who his competitor is that he's racing against. So I think he's going to let that one live for another day after those mistakes. So do I think he could have, or do I think he broke him? I don't know if he broke him, but I think it was put it this way, it's a massive confidence boost for Kenny. I don't think it necessarily did sways either way for Coop. I think Coop is Coop, and he's a hard cookie to crack. I think in a way it's kind of twofold, right? It gives Kenny some confidence if Kenny's being honest. it'd be like, ooh, if he didn't make that mistake, it certainly would have been closer because Coop was making up time on Kenny. Because Kenny pulled out a little bit, so Coop was on his way up. Although, like, if you're Cooper, I think it pisses Cooper off. I think it's going to motivate him more to not make that same mistake twice again. It's like, damn, this is one that got away. So, but he put himself in that position, and it was a forced error on his behalf, and that's what potentially lost any hopes of him winning his first Daytona Supercross. And so, anyhow, I'm with you, RV. I don't think there's anything that was broken there.
Hi, folks. Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.